So Cloud Factory really got started with my business partner Mark Sears kind of coming over on vacation, and he just was there for like 2 weeks and just sat down with a computer and just bought an iMac, teaching a couple guys how to do Rails programming. And they really took to it, and so he ended up taking on a contract, and had more contracts, and the team grew from 3 people around a computer to now 40 people doing like Rails outsourcing and building applications for startups. But the idea of Cloud Factory was, well, okay, you give these people an opportunity and they just ran with it. But not everybody in places like Nepal and other developing countries are these top tier computer engineers, and so how do you reach that broader audience? And so we're building Cloud Factory to kind of create this platform so people can kind of easier build more crowdsourcing solutions, but then that enables us on the back end to we're looking to kind of be that Kiva, for micro work.
How do you, so you're still dealing with some other external challenges, of course, like,
Sure.
we have all the electronics and communications available to us here. You can get Verizon, Time Warner, whomever.
Yeah.
How do these guys do, how does your labor force interact with you guys? And are they mostly in the urban part of Nepal is, or do you have to help them in other ways to get started?
Sure.
Outside of the training, I mean.
Yeah, and so in places like Nepal, you figure out how and where you can best interact with them. In places like Nepal, you need to figure out things like electricity,
right, that's what I mean.
computers,
The
as well as
granted.
the internet access. And one of the great things is some of the developing world is really kind of leapfrogging, a lot of the generations we went through here in the U.S. with things like 3G technology of just putting it on wireless networks. And so, cell phones are able to be accessed all through, different remote areas of Nepal. And so, it's no longer having to lay lines and stuff to get internet everywhere. Yeah, you just go to the tower and now you put a 3G thing on the same tower. And so that's really expanding very quickly in places like northern India, and it's starting to expand more and more in Nepal. And so right now, you have 3G in Kathmandu Valley and some of the other big cities, but it's quickly expanding to some of the other areas instead of needing to do expensive, wiring as we did before.
Because that's been a big barrier for a lot of the workforce in some of these countries.
Yeah. And so 3G and now 4G towers is really one of those technologies that's really going to help crowdsourcing expand to more remote areas.
So what impact do you think you guys have had on the communities out there?
Well, we're still in a place where we're still very early. We are launched the technology platform like a month and a half ago at TechCrunch Disrupt. And so that's just kind of started. And now we're going through, well, how do we match kind of what Kiva does on the ground? How do we do training, implementation, qualification, versus just having like a sign-up page on the website? We want to be more boots on the ground, like guiding people and building that bridge. And part of that's also doing things like microloans, of saying like maybe initially they can walk into a cyber cafe without any real barrier and just do the work there, log in with their account and do work and get paid. But if they're going to make a career out of it, which is what we're more kind of gearing people towards, how can they get their own computer, their own 3G connection and things like that? And so doing small microloan kits for cloud workers, to get all the different like the netbook and the headphones and the everything they need to do the different kind of crowdsourcing work. Yeah, and so that's we're looking at that model of doing microloans that then could be paid back and put back into the model of then other people getting those microloans. This year is really about researching how do we make that model more replicable, and so then we can then expand it out to other countries as well. But starting in Nepal, where we've based and saw this work with our outsourcing and Rails engineering side.
So how is it for you living in Nepal?
It's different for sure. Things like I've learned.
Possibly?
It's quieter. I've certainly learned a lot more about electricity than I've ever known before.
I've lived overseas. You take a lot for granted here.
Yeah, I love the grocery stores here now, because there it's really neat though that you go out and you go to markets and you get things you definitely don't have to worry nearly about much being steroid injected and stuff. It's organic because that's all they have.
Whereas we organize on a farmer's market. Everything is a farmer's market.
Everything is a farmer's market, and it's definitely different in areas, but there's definitely things about it I really enjoy. My wife is having our first baby in a month and a half, and so thank you. And it's interesting kind of being in a place like that. There's a lot more freedom for kids, that it's not like, all this marketing and stuff that, they need to be doing these, 20 different groups with all these other kids and be buying all these different products and having, it's much more about, kids just being imaginative and still in an environment like that. And so I'm excited, to kind of raise kids in an environment like that.
Yeah, I always think our kids get bombarded by so much.
Yeah.
And not just television, but peer groups and in so many ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of demands put on these things, and just, I think simplification kind of really helps in a lot of different areas. But yeah, so we're kind of looking at Cloud Factory as being this technology platform that, right now we're our stopgap for workers, because, we're kind of in that chicken or the egg kind of scenario right now, where we wanted to build the technology so that then we can have the work to build up a workforce. And so that people can use Cloud Factory today, we're partnering with Amazon through the Mechanical Turk, and so our tool kind of lets you drive a lot of these kind of quality things people normally wrap around MTurk's API to get more quality out of the workers. We try to make that more easy with generalized tools. But the overall goal is to drive that work through, so then we can kind of take that work and put it into people in the developing world who look at it more as a career, and are very motivated, to get that work and do the trainings and do all that kind of stuff.
It's funny, I just talked to Matt Morellis from Speaker Text.
Yeah.
And he's launching something quite similar. You should connect with him.
Yeah, that's great.
They're rolling it out tomorrow, called Humanoid.
Oh, great.
I think they've done some back testing and they're ready to
Fantastic.
let it loose on the world. So
Yeah. Yeah, no,
so
for sure.
whereabouts is your partner?
I think actually he was in there. I think he's actually playing foosball right now. there was a few I saw that were setting up some kind of tournament game to go play a foosball game. But yeah, they should be back here soon.
Founders having fun. Are you going to the dinner?
Not tonight. Yeah, because we're going to be here until Oh yeah, they're going to do their. It's a 12-hour hackathon, and so they'll submit and do their different entries at 9 p.m. Tonight, and then yes, we still have a few hours.
We should take some footage of these guys. They're working really hard.
Yeah, well, I can talk a little bit about Crowdhack, because it was like
absolutely.
so. We had gone to things like TechCrunch Disrupt and see these communities, in the Valley that say, okay, you have this conference to pull together the community. You have that sub-community of developers, what Twilio calls like the doers of the organization, and how do you start pulling those people together and their needs, that it's not just like the business, but also kind of from a technical level. And so we talked to Crowdflower and said, how about, organizing a piece that would be like more of a hackathon part of CrowdConf. And they were really excited about it, and we were like, well, we'd love to run with it. And so we kind of wanted to found this Crowdhack to kind of say, how do we start pulling together the crowdsourcing community and the technical side of it to figure out, well, what do people want in platforms? What are people having problems with? How can we better solve and better collaborate? Because it's such an emerging market. To kind of say, if we can, collaborate more, it's going to build the whole industry, and we're all going to benefit. Instead of having it be this more kind of cutthroat thing where, you're trying to tear each other down. Like, let's make more collaboration things.
There's plenty of room in the market right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about labor. At the end of the day, it's kind of like the more people you can teach about crowdsourcing and you can bring in, there's a huge group for that to grow.
That's definitely on the roll. I mean, we're very interested in just getting even enterprise to better understand what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
how many interests did you have?
So we had 56 kind of sign up, and I think when you have a free event, you're never sure exactly how many are going to come, but I think we had probably 40 at least kind of come in. Yeah, and so I think it's been a really big success. We started with these small rooms, but we think next year we're going to be in one of the big rooms and doing even more.
It's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
I think it might behoove the speakers to get in there early and see. It's a nice setup there.